Good morning, traders. Welcome to Trading Together. I'm Mel Gacee. Today is Monday, February the 9th. Happy Monday, everybody. Did you all enjoy your Super Bowl weekend? I had a great time with friends and family. It was lovely. And I hope you all did too. Like I said last week, we got to take time to remember what's important. I grind hard 7 days a week. I really do. But we got to take time to really celebrate what's important, and that's the people we love in our life, right? So Anna is here. Good morning, and good. You had a lovely day. I'm so glad to hear that. That's excellent. I did too. We had all kinds of good, typical football food. We had some wings and guacamole and uh, some, let's see, taquitos and just all the good things, salsa and chips. It was delicious. So let's get started with our analysis. But first, let me just say that if you are here this morning and you have not said hi yet, welcome. I want to welcome you. And if you can, drop your name in the chat because I love to get to know you guys. I really want to know who you are and who's following because I really want to invest in you and your journey as a trader. That's what this space is for. This is a free space. You follow me live. I give you trades. I analyze the market with you. I answer all your questions and comments. And this is meant to be a space that's safe and interactive and fun and a space where you can grow and learn. And so I would love to know who you are and get to meet you and answer your questions and comments. BD is here. Good morning. How are you? Thanks for saying hi. So we've got a bullish push this morning. We did open with a small gap down. We pretty quickly filled that gap and began the climb upward. We are now sitting at 694 on the SPY. I've already made really good money today. And I'm looking for another entry, but it's been pretty consistent climbing here. Gavlan is here. Good morning. Good to see you. So yeah, it's been a pretty consistent climb here. I'm going to be watching for an opportunity to get long. And let's take a look at our volume. First, I'm going to take a quick look at the gamma. We are in very strong positive gamma. That would make sense. We have 695 as our call wall, which is just overhead, not by much. So that could give me some caution about jumping in long here. If we've got a call wall at 695, that is only 50 cents overhead. Might not be enough there might not be enough room there to make a trade. If we stopped at 695, we don't have to. We've definitely been charging up this morning. But as I said, the call wall is at our volume. So that was gamma. I'm going to take a look at volume. And as you know, I like to come out here and look at the options chain, and that helps me gauge what kind of volume we have at what strikes. All right. Basically, the biggest volume, no surprise, sitting right here at the 694 call level, followed closely by 695. Looks to me like we could keep climbing up to 695. Again, that's only 5 points away. Is there enough room there to take a trade? It's tight. It's tight. Our next biggest trade is going to be on the put side at 690 puts. So we got to watch that possible move down to 690. I don't know that that's going to happen, but it could. Let's take a look here. Bill is here. Good morning, Bill. Thanks for saying hi. All right, strong push really since the open. Right here, we got a little dip here, a couple of little dips, but really strong push since the open. Now the VIX is starting to level off. So the VIX got pushed down to 17. And something that I've been watching is this elevated rising bottom VIX. that is a red flag for a potential drop. So I'm going to be watching for that. Not necessarily today, but when we see the VIX elevated as the market is climbing, I mean, VIX is doing what it's supposed to do. It's coming down while the market is rising. That's what it's supposed to do. But it is still elevated for us being up here at really close to all-time highs again. We are only 35, 40 points-ish away from a new all-time high. We wouldn't expect to see the VIX elevated. And it's not super elevated. It's sitting at 17. That's not, in the big scheme of things, that's not very high. But it is a consistently rising bottom. And that is something that we have to be aware of. All right. So we did make a climb up through our overnight high and our high of day from Friday. So that was a bullish move. If we take a look at the daily candle on, let's look at the SPX, and I'll keep my eyes on this little drop here because we might trade that drop. I don't know. I'm watching. We could trade this drop. Let's see what happens here. We do have a MACD rolling down. We do have the whole moving average starting to curl over to the downside. This could be a signal for a put, but it has been a strong climb, so I'm still cautious. We are up 30 points from Friday's close. And again, we're up over the high of day. All right, I'm going to take a look at the SPX. I'm still kind of watching this chart. Right there. Okay, SPX. And as you guys might remember, that is the S&P 500 index. So I'm actually charting the S&P index itself. And that's on Thinkorswim, they call it SPX. Pretty much everywhere they call it SPX. Okay, let's look at our daily and you'll see what I'm talking about. Super, super strong candle on Friday. We had this big dip all the way back down here to below 6,800. So we hit the all-time high. We rolled over for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days. This one wasn't really a down day, but we pushed downward for 6 days. We pierced the 100. Remember how important I said that was? We pierced the 50 and then we pierced the 100, and then we recovered both the 100 and the 50 and even the 21 in one fell swoop right here on Friday. So big, strong day. It was looking pretty weak here. We had gotten to this bottom, but look at how strong that support held right here. It was the same level that we got to before. Got to support and bounced here, got to that same support and bounced here. So now it's given us another buy the dip signal. And look how close we are to the all-time high. Let me zoom in for you. Here's the all-time high on this candle that was made on the 28th of January. And here is today's candle. Very strong beat of Friday's high of day. That is very bullish. Very, very bullish. So could we come up here and grab a new all-time high? Yes, we could. There is still interest in the 700 strike on the SPY. So with that having interest, That would put our high at 70.20 on the SPX. It absolutely could happen, very well could happen. But I will say this, in my big macro picture, I am leaning bearish. I am kind of waiting for a larger pullback. This right here, as we discussed on Friday, this isn't much of a pullback. I think we were down 3% maybe. And I don't know what we were at the bottom here, but we've only gone down about 3% from the all-time high on the SPY. Right now, it's much less than that. And that is not much of a move, especially when you consider what is going on with the Magnificent Seven, all those 7 or 8 stocks that are the super tech titans, right? The big guys, NVIDIA, Apple, Amazon, Microsoft, Meta, Tesla, Google, and sometimes Broadcom. These guys are the titans, excuse me, of the stock world, of the tech world. They're just massive, massive companies. And they hold big, big weighting in the S&P 500. They also basically run the whole NASDAQ. So the NASDAQ is just a tech index, but the S&P 500 has 500 different stocks in it. However, a big chunk, 30 to 40% of the S&P 500 makeup is these top 8 stocks. So as those Magnificent Seven, as they move and go up and down, they are actually moving the NASDAQ and the S&P 500. What's interesting, we discussed this on Friday. I had done a lot of research on all of the different charts. And what was interesting to me is that we are in bear territory on several of the large stocks. 30% down almost on Microsoft, 20% down on NVIDIA, 19% down on Tesla, or vice versa. Now, of course, that's changed because since this jump, they've all moved back up. But the point I'm making is that those guys have been really suppressed and in a downward mode for months now. And we have not really seen the same thing on the S&P 500, where you can see it. You can see the slight upward trend, but you also see this bounciness in this range right in here. Where is the main range? Right in here, right in this 6,900 to 6,950. We're a little over that today, but this has been the range that we've been living in for weeks now. Roberto Gaspar, good morning. Good to see you. So, been living in this range for a long time now. All right, looks to me like we could be making a down move, maybe. I am going to look at puts here, but I'm not going to get into anything yet. I'm going to look at the 695 puts for today's expiration. And I'm not in it yet because we're sort of just moving sideways here. You can also see it on the VIX. VIX is just floating sideways. So I'm going to keep my eye on this while we finish analyzing the daily. So what we see here is a strong push, another by the dip. This pattern has played itself over and over again. Every single time we get this push down, we get a boom by the dip. Push down, boom by the dip. Push down, boom by the dip. Push down by the dip. And most of these candles, if you look at every time that we've taken this hard low, the candle the next day is pretty strong. That's pretty strong candle there. That's not the next day, but pretty strong candle there. Very strong candle there. Very strong candle there. So this whole buy the dip mentality is still in play. And this has been played out over and over. We hit a new high, we drop, we buy the dip. That has played itself out over and over. So we'll watch and see. Okay, here comes a little run here. So glad we didn't take a put. Could we consider a call? Yes, I think our overhead stop is going to be 695 right now. Doesn't mean we can't go higher, but right now it looks like we might slow down at 695. That's not that far overhead. Does that give us enough room to take a trade? I don't know. I'm not sure the risk is worth it. Right now, that would give us about 60 cents if we were to hit 695. If we entered right now into a call, we'd have about 60 cents before we came up and hit 695. And I don't see a lot of interest right now above 695. So I'd be cautious about any longs here. Doesn't mean it can't keep climbing. It's been climbing all day, all morning. Okay. Daily analysis here, but you can see what's happening. Once again, it's a buy the dip. Now, can we come up and make a new all-time high? Yes. And where do I think it's going to be? At least 70.20 on the SPX. That's where at least it could go more, but I think if we jump up to make a new all-time high, I think they'll try to put it at 70.20 because that's the equal of 700 on the SPY. And I am seeing some options positioning at that SPY 700 level. Now, could we get a surprise drop out of nowhere? Yes. And this is why I'm 50-50 on direction because, like I said, we've got Magnificent Seven stocks really acting very weak. Most of them, almost all of them acting very weak. And we have the VIX acting a little strange. So let me show you what the VIX looks like on the daily. All right, here is the VIX on the daily. What is the first thing you notice about this chart? The first thing I notice about this chart is this rising bottom. Very, very consistently rising bottom. Now, we've had a little dip here, a couple of little dips. It's not a straight shot. But if you let your eye take a little artistic license, you can certainly see the rising bottom. And it's interesting to me that here we are at all-time highs again. What did I say? 35, 40 points off from our all-time high. What is interesting to me is that at all-time highs, we are still experiencing a VIX of 17 and 18. That's not huge in the grand scheme of things as the VIX plays, but to me, it's unusual that we are hitting all-time highs with a rising bottom on the VIX. That has got me scratching my head, telling me that we could get a fast drop out of nowhere, a quick punch down. So that's where I'm at on the big picture analysis. I'm a little bit more bearish than bullish, but I do think we could still come up and hit a new all-time high before we get this drop. So that's where I'm at on that. Let's get back to looking at these charts. I'm going back to the futures. So this chart over here, this is the futures chart. It's /ES on Thinkorswim. And that is basically the futures over the S&P 500 index. So the futures, the ES, yes, I would agree, Guy. The futures looks just like the SPX, which looks just like the SPY. They're all the same. All right, here comes this drop again. I'm considering a put here, but it's been a strong run up. And Guy, I'm going to get back to your point there because you're absolutely right about the liquidity sweeps. And we'll talk a little bit about, I think we talked last week about a Wyckoff distribution, which is what I am seeing or could be seeing on the daily chart. So we'll talk about that in just a minute. I'm kind of watching the chart right now for a potential trade. Do we want to try and trade a put here? We're a little bit elevated. We're a lot elevated over the VWAP. So it would be a little bit more of a risky trade. We haven't quite hit 695 yet. It doesn't mean we have to. Just because we have volume there does not mean we have to hit it. And the VIX is still pulling sideways. So I'm not seeing a trade right this minute. I could go either way from here. I could take a trade to the upside or a trade to the downside, but right now it's giving us a little bit of sideways motion. And Guy, in answer to your comment, I'm going to go back and put the daily on there. It does look like it wants to come down, doesn't it? Is it just me? Can we see what the VIX is doing here? Are we getting a rising? A little bit, little bit, little bit. 17.2 on the VIX. Okay, here's the SPX again. And back to your point, Guy, with the candles looking like liquidity sweeps, I think you're exactly right. I think that's what they are. And that is kind of another way to express or to see a Wyckoff distribution. And the idea behind distribution or accumulation, Wyckoff, lived a long time ago, and he kind of found that when we get this sideways movement, even though we are slowly creeping up, we do have a very, the angle of this trend line isn't super strong, but it is slowly creeping up. All right, we're moving back to the upside. I might consider calls here. Like I said, there's not a lot of room if the top is at 695. So that's the only thing I'm cautious of here. But I am looking at the 694 calls. We're just going a little sideways right now. And the problem is, if we wait for it to break out of the sideways movement, it's going to be too much to get into the call. Because there's just not a lot of room between where we're at and 695. All right, still a little bit rangy. But back to Wyckoff distribution and accumulation. What he discovered is that, or what he, studied was this movement, this sideways movement. So again, I'm saying, yes, we are getting some slightly upward, look at the angle. There's not much of an angle on this upward trend, not much at all. It is still slightly upward, but more than anything, we're getting a sideways range in through here. And so exactly what you're saying, Guy, what Wyckoff noticed is that when we get these kind of rangy behaviors, what's really going on underneath the hood is big money is buying or selling. So what they will do is get this price up as high as they can. So you can see this over and over, right? They got the price up as high as they could, and boom, they sold it. They've got the price up as high as they could. Boom, they sold it. Every single time that we've hit a new high, they've sold it. Now, it doesn't mean that we're not in accumulation and maybe they're pulling it down and then buying. That is also a possibility. But it looks more to me like selling. And the idea between this, I'm kind of liking these calls here. We don't have the MACD rolling over yet, so that's kind of like, and we're close to 695. So I don't know. I like the movement. We could get another leg up. So we don't know for sure that they're selling, but the idea is big money has such a large ship to turn if they want to get in or out of positions that it takes days, weeks to get out. Because here's what would happen if big money decided to sell, millions of dollars worth, what would happen to the market? As soon as someone that large starts selling, boom, the market goes down. So it would go down against the institution who is trying to sell. They don't want to do that. They don't want to pull the market down against themselves. So they will sell off in chunks. There's still large chunks, which is why we see these bigger candles. We're still seeing large orders, pushing these candles up and down. But they they're so large, but they're not as big as the position that they need to unwind. So if we're in distribution, and I'm not saying we are, it kind of looks like we are, but if we are, these areas all represent areas where big money took some chunks, some blocks, and sold off. And that, like I said, can happen over days and weeks because they just can't do it all at once. And that's what Wyckoff accumulation distribution is. Sideways range is usually nothing more than a mask for buying or selling going on under the hood. And then once they're done pumping it up, if we're in distribution, okay, there we go. If we're in distribution, once they're done pumping it up, and they're out of their positions, that's when it drops. That's when you get the big drop, because now buyers are gone. They've already gotten out of their positions. They've sold, they're done, and they won't come back until we get at a better price point, and they might try to get in again. So that's exactly what you were saying, Guy, about the liquidity sweeps on the VIX. All right. Same thing. Honestly, same thing. But yes, I would agree with you. VIX looks like that though, usually. Okay, here's 694.6, a new high. We could try and take a small trade here, but it's right here close to 695. So if we take it, just be aware it would be a little bit more risky, because if 695 is the top, we're pretty close. We don't quite have a rollover on the MACD yet. There it goes. There it goes. And they're just making these teeny candles. And I really don't like trading when the candles are small like this either, because the moves are so slow. It just takes forever to get your money and to get out. All right, let me get back to my minute chart over here. There we go. It's still going. I think I'm going to pass on this one. We do have volume at 695. I don't see much volume at 696. That doesn't mean they can't push it there and pump that volume real quick, but 695 is the max that I'm seeing right now. So I don't think I'm going to take this trade. Plus, it's moving slowly. We might consider a put here, not right here, but as it gets tired and decides to roll over, we could consider a put at that point. So far, it hasn't. There's all morning long. We zoom out, all you see is this climb, right? Strong climb. All right, so important data. Today was supposed to be the delayed release of the labor report, the non-farm payroll labor report. Supposed to be today, and that was delayed. And then they have delayed it once again now until Wednesday. So we won't see the non-farm payroll report until Wednesday, and that can be a really big market mover. The market is really waiting for this one, because with the shutdown that we had in October, those numbers went MIA, and the numbers we've seen since then are questionable. So this will be one of the like a complete month since that shutdown, and hopefully would be a little bit more accurate. I don't have a lot of faith in the Bureau of BS, like I like to call them. It's the BLS, the Bureau of Labor Statistics. I like to call them the Bureau of BS. I don't have a lot of faith in their numbers to begin with, but since the shutdown, those numbers have really been looking wonky. So, however, this is expected to be a full report and expected to be a little bit more accurate. So we'll see if that's true. And that'll be Wednesday. So be really careful with any overnight trades on Tuesday. Just know that that's coming out. Oh, also, I think NVIDIA reporting this week? Let me check that real quick. Is it this week or next week? Robinhood, APP. No, it must be next week. So that's one to be watching for as well, but that won't be this week. That'll be next week. We do have some, larger companies reporting, McDonald's and Robinhood. Those guys are a little bit bigger, but I don't trade earnings. To me, they're nothing more than a gamble. So I won't be trading that, but I do watch the Magnificent Seven earnings because those do move the market. Okay. Guys saying Dippity Doodah, perfect name for them. Yes, the Bureau of BS. Okay, so we're still just doing this little micro climb. It's not really moving very fast. So I passed on this call and I am going to wait, I think, for a put, maybe. We'll see if we can get any kind of downward movement or we're just going to do this little inch up thing here. Again, based on the volume, I don't see enough volume sitting at 696 to jump in here. Now that doesn't mean that we can't get it. It just means that at this moment, it doesn't look like a good trade to me. So if I did take puts, we would be looking at the 695s for today's expiration. If I were to take them, and I'm not taking it just yet. We don't quite have the MACD cooperating. And do you see these two lines right here on the MACD? One is called the signal line, one is called the average line. These lines are measuring momentum. So when the distance between these lines is tiny, it tells us that we are in very low momentum. There's not a lot of volatility happening right now. Okay, we're starting to get a little red turnover here on the MACD. I am partially interested in a put, although we are way elevated over the VWAP. I do kind of like a put here. Let's see if we get any stronger signals. But basically, these two lines are measuring momentum. The closer they are together, the lower the momentum, the smaller these bars are. This histogram right here, that is a representation of the distance between these two lines. And the broader the distance, so if we zoom out and look at it, the broader the distance between the lines, the bigger the momentum. The more narrow, the smaller the momentum. All right. No put yet. There's not a strong downward move, even though we do have the MACD rolling. You can see by the price movement, we're not really going anywhere yet. Let's see if we can get down below this 21 EMA. There it goes. Nice. It's moving kind of slowly still. Not jumping in just yet. I just don't like the slow moving price here. That's what's keeping me out. Mm. Two. It's just really slow right now. Volume is descending, so that's another thing to look at. Okay. So no, it wasn't really a good move there yet. Doesn't mean it won't turn and come down, but that move was just too small. We couldn't have made money on it. Doesn't mean they're through moving it down, but right now it looks like it's bouncing. So let's see. Our VIX is still pulling sideways. So choppy right here. All right, good. Glad we didn't take that. Looking like another possible push to a new high. And we are mostly sideways right now. You can sort of see it here. We did get a high right here, but it is feeling a little bit sideways right now. There we go. Yep, new high. There it is. Algo's slowed way down, looking at the 5:30 minutes of range, wick off the 9 EMA. Yeah, very slow right now, Guy. I agree with you 100%. Super slow price movement. And usually when I see that, it's kind of like a warning because you can get stuck in those moves for a long time when they do this slowdown of these tiny candles. Coming up on lunchtime in New York. Yeah, maybe they're all out to lunch. Very, very possible. All right, so we're at the high of day, 694.8. Remember I said I thought 695 might cap it? And there wasn't a lot of room from where we were to 695. You can see we've gone nowhere since we started the stream. We're in a tiny range. Let's see if we got any more volume at 696. Not much, not too much. Do have volume growing down the put side, but it's still much less than the call side. Very high positive gamma. All right. All right. Getting a little reaction here off of 694.9. 69.69 or 69.70 on the SPX. Again, we're just a hair away from that all-time high at 7,002. Will they hit it today? They could. It's not that far, 32 points. They could certainly hit it today if they wanted to. Yeah, see these little teeny candles? Those are, oh, okay. There's 695. There we go. And let's see what the Qs are doing, what the NASDAQ is doing. So the NASDAQ is up higher than we are, 0.8% today. The Mag 7 index is up 1.3%. So that's a nice strong push for the Mag 7. Okay, there it goes, 695. Oof. All right, there's that push. 695.2 is where we're sitting right now at the high of day. Going. All right, so at this point, I want to see if they're going to slow down somewhere in the 695 zone. I think that they are. $695.3. And I don't want to jump in here at this point. I feel like even if the move continues, it's late. I wouldn't take it. And that's one thing that you got to get comfortable with, is sometimes just sitting out a move. Doesn't mean it wasn't a good move. It doesn't mean you wouldn't have made money, but you got to get comfortable with the idea of sitting out a move, because there's always another one. So if something just doesn't feel right, like we were getting those tiny candles, we didn't have a lot of room to 695. If something just doesn't feel completely right, it's okay to sit it out. It really, really is. Cash is a position, and you gotta be careful. You gotta take care of your capital. It's important. Don't be hasty in your decisions. It's okay to wait. All right, little red candle here. MACD darkening up a little bit. Almost a vertical whole moving average. So that one is just straight up right there. So any kind of a put trade right now would be counter to the trend, and it would be, in my opinion, risky, because the trend is very clearly bullish today, all day. Doesn't mean we can't make money from pullbacks like we've seen along the way, but they're always riskier. All right, starting to slow down a little here. 695.3. Price is coming underneath the hull. Let's see if it climbs back over it, or we continue under. All right, VIX giving us a little bit of a move up, nothing much. Price is still under the hull. Let's see if we start to get this to roll over. All right, BD. Counter trend trade, strike 696, 125, tight stop loss. Good luck. Good luck. Looking for 130. Okay, good luck. Oh, that was fast, BD. That was a quick scalp there. Very well done. That's the beauty of scalping on these small time frames at 0 DTE. The moves that we get, even a tiny move, can definitely be enough to make a few points. So congrats, BD. Nice trade. Very fast, very fast. All right, we're holding this sideways position right now. The price is still under the hull. I am also considering that put, BD. $695.3 is our high. All right, 696 starting to pick up a little bit on the volume. If the MACD brightens up, we could consider a call trade. And if we did, that would be at 695. If that price gets up over the hull and if the MACD brightens up again, we could consider that call trade, especially with volume picking up a little bit on the 696s. There we go. All right, I'm going to try a really quick call here. Punch it. I am in. I'm not going to try to stay in for too long. I've got good profit today, so I'm okay taking a small win here. I'm out at 4%. Punch it. I don't know if that was too fast for anyone. Hopefully you'd be able to catch it with me. Okay, BD, only risking 25 per contract. Really did not have faith in that contract size down. Yeah, I'm with you on that one, BD. All right, Anna, would it be smart to buy a SPX call and hold it till the end of the day? Two things with that, Anna. It's not a bad idea when we have a trending day. I would call that something like a runner. Where you're kind of expecting a continuation of this move. If you are feeling pretty convinced that the move is going to continue all day, you can take a small trade. SPX would be a larger trade. SPX trades 10 times the size of SPY. So if you wanted to risk less, you could take a SPY out of the money call, just hold it and see if we continue traveling up. So that's not a bad idea. The other thing is holding until the very end of the day. I think you already know, Anna, is that's going to be a problem because if you don't have a ton of trajectory moving upward, the theta, the time decay, will hurt that option if it's a today's expiration. So yeah, two thoughts on that. Can you put a runner out there if you're confident in the direction? Yes, you can. I would make it small, and I would be careful with the idea of holding it till the end of the day. I would, if you're confident in the direction, hold it until you've got a nice profit and then get out. And then also the idea of size. So SPX is going to be a bigger trade than SPY. Okay. All right, Anna, saying thanks. I'll give it a try. You're still paper trading, right, Anna? All right. So we're getting this little slower movement up here at this level. Oh, not really? Okay. Okay. Maybe that's Audrey. I'm sorry. I might be getting you mixed up. I thought It might be Audrey that's paper trading, but yeah, just if you're experimenting with something like that, just keep it small is my advice. All right, VIX still dropping a little bit down here at 17. Qs have now climbed up 1%. So it is another buy the dip day for sure so far. But I do think we're getting a little top heavy here, little toppy. A little bit toppy. Let's see if our gamma is doing anything different. Nope, still pretty strong gamma here. Yeah, 4 billion, and we're still looking at 695 being the call wall. But we've got some strong volume at 696 and 697 on the gamma chart. So, you know, could we continue up? Yes, we absolutely could. See how the volume here is starting to increase a little bit at the 696 and 697. You can see it start to creep up a little bit here. All right, slowing down a bit. So look at how the price is kind of consistently floating under the HMA, or sorry, the Hull moving average. So do you see how over here, this move was really strong and vertical, and then it went sideways. It came, the price, these candles came under the Hull, and they pretty much stayed there. So let's see if we can cross back over. That's what it's doing right now. We don't have the MACD brightening up. There it is. It's starting to brighten up here. But again, these are tiny moves. Hard to make money here. All right, we're getting close to the end of the stream, and we did take a quick winner there. It wasn't very big. I think it was like 4%, but it was great to have you here with me. The trading plan for today is clearly we're in a bull trend, right? We're clearly bullish here. Don't fight the trend. The trend is your friend, right? Now, we are super elevated above the VWAP, so there should be a pullback here at some point, and it should be tradable, but just be more cautious with your counter trend trades. Just like you were BD, you were in and out real quick. If you're taking a counter trend trade, just be fast and take small wins, because those are where the higher risk is. The lower risk is following the trend. Now, that doesn't mean we won't reverse, but lower risk is always following the trend, and you'll always make more money following the trend. So yeah, my trading plan today is any pullbacks, you know, if we pull back like we did here, pull back to the 20, 21, we can buy that. If we drop down significantly and start actually seeing a downward move, we can consider puts, but I'd be careful with those. I'd want to see, you know, real evidence that we're moving down. I want to see the MACD rolling over. I want to see the whole moving average, but I also want to see the price attacking this recent low right in here. So that's the idea for today. That's okay. Here we go. And I am open to a put right here. So I am going to load up the 695s, but I'm not going to take it yet, because like I said, we want to see real evidence that we are actually starting to move down. That is the trading plan for today. We did get a quick win out of it. I hope someone was able to catch that. BD saying it's a grind. It is a grind, BD, and it's an upward grind is what it's been all day. And when it grinds, these teeny candles are hard to make money on, but we can make a few points, and that's good. So it was fun trading with you all today. I had a great morning. I will be back again tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern. Thank you so much for being here, and I will see you guys all tomorrow. And yeah, you're welcome, Anna. You're welcome, Guy. Thank you so much, guys. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a great rest of your day. Bye for now.